this is Governor Bobber. Like, good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good evening, everyone. We've got a couple of doctors that are just coming out of ER right now. They'll be joining us shortly. But right now, we're joined by Dr. Dwight and Dr. Don. Welcome to another exciting episode of Dr. Politics. I am back from Florida once more. Unfortunately, it was raining. Otherwise, I would have come in, done a beach show. But it was we had our Florida afternoon thunderstorm a little bit later than normal, so could not accommodate from the beach. So anyways, this has been a very, very busy week. A lot of things happened this week. We've got
that's true. Hey,
from
so I'm glad that you Dwight. I'm glad you clarified why you weren't on the show last, because we were like, yeah, I thought we were going to get the beach version there.
Yeah, I know it was raining, unfortunately.
We would have been able to sing you happy birthday.
Yeah, I know. That was the original plan. I was going to have. I tell you, when I did the show last time, I had a lot of people walk up and they were just standing around watching us. I'm like, wow, we got a live audience here. And I'm like, we should do this more often.
You look like somebody important if you're doing that, right?
Yeah, I know you do. It's like, especially down in the great state of Florida, which brings me. I wonder if it was a senior moment or was Joe trying to be Governor Who, or was he referring to some Chinese governor that gives him kickbacks?
That's actually kind of funny. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think this is to me. I think this is part of Joe Biden showing once again his short temper, right? Ron DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, has gotten under his skin as they've been fighting over masks and vaccines and whatnot, and so that this is kind of like the best Biden can do is try to create those things like Governor Who. Well, I mean, when you're the governor of Florida, I mean, everybody knows who you are pretty much, especially for someone who's become such high profile as Ron DeSantis. So I think the whole thing kind of falls flat.
And I think by 2024, he will, when he does, I think he'll find out who Governor Who is real fast when he's running for his political life in 2024. Because I do believe Ron DeSantis would be the best candidate to run for president, to pick up the mantle of the core Republican values embraced by Reagan, Bush, Trump, Nixon, the good old days. And
I think that DeSantis's political, national political future will be somewhat dependent upon how he navigates Florida through all this, but now this Delta variant and all the reports that are coming out, and because when you see the news media, they're like, the 7 highest states of COVID infections and everything like this of the Delta variant are all in the southern states, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, on the surface, it doesn't look good, but there's a lot of other stuff beyond that actually tells a much more accurate picture, but that's not what we're going to hear from the media.
Nope,
and
we will not hear that.
Certainly not going to hear from the Biden administration.
And I think that's one of the biggest things we're seeing is that we've got is that there's one. I think they're basically building up all of the hysteria in the world, of this whole thing. They want to gin everyone up for this, frankly. And it basically, it really reminds me of back in I think it was the 90s, there was a educational television back when, I guess it was the FCC that mandated that they had to have, I guess this was in counter to SpongeBob and really bad television that wasn't appropriate for children. They brought together, they gave us the lovely show. Dr. Chris, welcome. while he is getting
Sorry,
situated.
I was in surgery.
Yeah, that's what we told folks. You were in surgery, so everyone understands. Saving lives. That's the name of the game.
Yes.
But as I was saying,
I was in surgery recruiting Republican candidates.
There you go. That's very important work. Are you at the Great Carroll County Fair?
I was there last night. I was not there tonight, but I was there last night seeing old Neil McCoy, 90s country singer.
Oh, nice. I wish I knew who that was.
I would have said you were in surgery performing a lobotomy on President Biden, but there's nothing to remove.
But this is my thoughts. Okay, this is what the Biden administration really is all about. This is what them and the Democrats, are doing. And this is what comes to mind. Chris, you're young enough. You probably remember watching this on a Saturday morning. Oops, hold on. Let me put the graphic. Let me get the graphic. Hold on a second. I thought I had it. There we go.
I'm not sure if
you probably. I don't know if you can see, but
There we go. What is this?
I mean, you guys probably. I mean, Chris, you're young enough. You probably remember this show.
Is that supposed to be like the Animaniacs or something?
Yeah, it comes from the same woodshed, but this is focused on history. And they had this woman, like she's misinformation. This is the baby New Year. That's Father Time. That's basically misinformation. This is the oldest woman in the world. That's Loud Kiddington. And the name of the show is Hysteria. And I think that is what Joe Biden and the Democrats are pushing right now. It's all about this. This is all they care about. Hysteria about the Delta variant. And I'm not a conspiratory guy, but I am getting to the point where it's starting to feel like this is a conspiracy. Seems like just when we think things are getting back to normal, next thing we have is the Delta variant. We got to put our mask. My county, by the way, do you guys have a mask mandate in your county, Chris?
No, not in Carroll County. We might have to do our commissioners have taken a stance. They took a stance last year that we will follow whatever the governor's whatever the governor's doing, we do. So there's no statewide mask mandate, so we're not doing it.
But see, in Montgomery County, we have an emperor, Mark Elric, and his dear leader has mandated by royal decree that masks go on tomorrow. This is His Majesty right here at his finest, Mark Elric in his Tacoma Park home. Riding, with his $80,000 GMC Chevy Suburban parked outside of his Tacoma Park home. And he wants everyone else to take the bus. But he kind of reminds me a lot of Corey Bush. But Chris, your thoughts on this whole Delta variant? Is it hype or is it real?
There was I think it was an AP column in the Carroll County Times the other day, and I can't remember the name. Is it Jonah or Jeff Goldberg?
Yeah, Jonah Goldberg.
Jonah Goldberg. And what he wrote, I think, was right on point, which is that basically he was saying, listen, I followed along. I went along. I didn't really like it, but I went along with the masks. I went along with getting the vaccine. I didn't go too crazy and lose my cool when the emails came out, the Fauci emails came out. But I'm at the end at this point, and that's how I feel. That I played the game. I checked all the boxes. I held my nose, but I kept trucking along. And at this point, it's just, messaging wise, how and trust me, and I got the vaccine. But there's plenty of people in Carroll County who certainly have not gotten the vaccine and won't get it unless they, bust through their door and drag them out. I don't know how I look those people in the face anymore and say that, yeah, it was worth it getting the vaccine, because now they're sitting there telling you that the vaccine,
Like this, Chris, you mean?
you can still get it. You can still get it. You don't need to wear a mask. I mean,
Yeah.
what was the point of all this?
Yeah. So, Chris, is this how they'll take vaccines in certain parts of Carroll County?
Yeah. They who's that little Amelia or what was his name?
Elian Gonzalez.
And yeah.
That's back when the Democrats believed in deportation.
Yeah, when those mean Democrats were kicking in doors and ripping poor illegals out of closets.
But I mean, you're right, Chris. I mean, here's the thing too: is that so I'm Facebook friends with a woman. I've never met her, just like most of the people on Facebook. Friends with a lot of people you've never met, but at least have some similar interests. And she's an older woman, based on what I've read over the time we've been friends. She works at the Costco in Frederick, and she put up a post today, which was basically a copy of a letter that she wrote, her resignation letter to Costco. She liked her job, but she says, she's also severely hearing impaired, and she basically laid out in very even-handed, very fair, not being overly emotional, hysterical about, I followed, the procedure, all the way through this, but I can't do it anymore. And one of the things that she put out, and that's why I mentioned this hearing loss, is that she says, look, I have to be able to read lips. People put on a mask. I can't read. I really don't know what they're saying as a result of that because of my hearing loss. So, I mean, she's got, you could say easily she's got a disability because of the hearing loss. And now by putting this mask effect, she can't really function. She can't do the job that she was hired to do. So therefore, she's going to quit. I don't know what she's going to do because, how many jobs are there for people, 60 plus, in that type of situation. But she just, and she didn't hold it against Costco. I mean, because they're going to be following the law, and implementing this kind of a thing like this. But it's really kind of a tough thing. I mean, I went up to Walmart in Germantown today because tomorrow I got to put a stinking mask on. I'm going to buy for the next week or so, and then hopefully maybe in a couple of weeks we get this thing back. One of the things that strikes me about the Montgomery County mandate,
and Montgomery County,
Dwight, too, is just that announcements of this up to this had said that while they were looking at the cases, right, the CDC has set up this thing about like moderate transmission to like severe or whatever, type of thing like this. And now Montgomery County had gone to that higher. So therefore, Montgomery County was going to impose the indoor mask mandate. Was that they had also said at the time, as they were preparing to get to the county council vote, was that hospitalizations are still moderate. Cases have spiked, but the hospitalizations didn't. And this has been part of the issue in a lot of parts of the country, is that there's a huge disconnect, right? People are getting tested a lot, so there are going to be some more positive cases. There haven't been a lot of breakthrough cases. So you can test positive even if you've been vaccinated, but the symptoms are you're either going to wind up being pretty asymptomatic or have very mild symptoms, which means is that the vaccine is doing the job it was intended to do. And this is not a public overall with this. There was, as they were looking at the South, we were talking about Florida before you came on, Chris. I mean, they were talking about how the spike has gone there with the cases, but they, at the same point in time, they said 90% of the hospitalizations are for those that haven't been vaccinated, which is another can of worms, another kind of a thing like that. But if you've gone fully vaccinated, I've been going to the gym, I've gone to church without a mask. I've had people over my house in groups of anywhere from 5 to 25, in all this time about, spikes as a result of that could be pinpointed to any of these events. So why are we having to go through this, except for, I think, what Dwight referred to earlier? We've got this dictator or whatever, this emperor that wants to impose his will, which tends to be the will that the Democrats want to do. what, our individual liberties, our rights are being taken away from us, and we are definitely looking more like, a socialist / communist state than we are America.
And Don, look at the positive. This is from the state health coronavirus.maryland.gov. 3.79 positive. That is what it is. We have 345 people in the entire state of Maryland going to the hospital. And for that, we have to put a mask back on. I mean, this is insanity. This is basically, Mark Ulrich's going to send his Stasi out probably starting Sunday. So you start finding businesses that don't enforce his mask mandate, And yes, I said it, Mark Ulrich, you're going to send your Stasi out, and basically, this is what they should be looking at, and more people die in car accidents. Not diminishing anything about death, but
I think we all know they're looking at the wrong figures. They're looking at that top line number, which does not have the same effect now, or does not have the same importance as it did a year ago. Before we had all the vaccines come out, as people were catching. This is that top line number. The number of infections does not carry the same weight as it did a year ago. Now you have to look at the hospitalizations, who's getting hospitalized, and how many deaths do you have, and lower in general. So they're trying to tell us that a mask is going to do the job, and we all know that the mask, this is just a component. It is not a medical thing. I mean, for heaven's sakes, these masks are really not preventing COVID at all.
Maryland, Worcester County, the home of Ocean City, Maryland. Look at that. This is the rate in Ocean City. Well, Worcester County. But Ocean City is the big part of Worcester County. And they have 3,794 reports in the entire county. And I don't know if everyone's ever seen pictures of Ocean City, but let me just show you some pictures of Ocean City. But, I'll get to that in a second. I got some really good pictures from Ocean City from a couple weeks ago. But we've got over in Ocean City, you've got there's a lot of people there. Not everyone's wearing a mask. Robin Ficker is there every week. And I've seen him with a mask on.
Good. 2 cents. I'm surprised we haven't had a comment from
it's
Robin.
funny.
Where is he?
He's on the beach.
I think you need to have him on as a doctor soon.
I think we should have him on.
Okay,
he may filibuster.
That'll require us to do a lot of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, I'll be at the gym tomorrow morning, and I'm just waiting to see. There's I'm supposed to be wearing a mask. I'm going to carry a mask with me, but I've been waiting.
This picture is from June.
I was kind of looking around today when I was over there to see if they were preparing for a mask mandate, and they sure tomorrow morning when I show up, maybe there'll be a sign. But yeah, no. I mean, look, remember too. I mean, this is an indoor mask mandate with a recommendation for those that have not been vaccinated, a mask outdoors in public places. So we haven't gone full, bore on this yet, but that other shoe will drop if the county gets a chance to do that to us.
Not to be the guy with
I'm going to be on a plane on Thursday. I will not be enjoying wearing a mask as I travel from here to Utah, but at least when I get to Utah, I'll be able to take the mask off no matter where I go.
Hey, so are you going to do the show live from Utah next week?
I am going to try. That'll be a 2-hour difference, and I'm not exactly quite sure where I'll be at 5 o'clock in Friday in Utah, but I'll figure this out.
Okay, cool. But as I was saying is, Ocean City, I've had the picture up, this is Ocean City. This is from earlier this summer. This is like mid-July, right? And these guys, I don't see too much. I mean, you can see there's not too much social, no mask. And I don't see COVID running rampant in Worcester County. but yet Mark Elric seems to think, I mean, Montgomery County, I think, is close to 80% vaccinated too. That's, and not, again, as I said, not to put my tinfoil hat on here, but I think this has to do a little bit with the teachers union and mucking around with school openings this year. I think they're trying to, force kids to do either wear masks or just keep schools closed as long as possible.
Oh, you bring
Yeah,
up,
I mean, I expect that we're going to get to 100% vaccination. And when you're, I think Montgomery County is a little over 70 and still kind of plodding along there. But, it's not going to increase by huge bounds at this point in time. You get to that level, and that's more or less probably herd immunity. I mean, at 70%, maybe Montgomery County gets to 75 or something like that. I mean, there's a big debate about vaccinations, right? I mean, Ron Rivera of the Redskins, I will not call it the WFT. Here's a guy who's a cancer survivor, and the vaccination rates on the Redskins team are not quite as high as they probably need to be. I mean, at least for in this case, at least for the sake of your coach, go ahead and get the vaccine. But it's interesting to hear, a lot of the players are not, they're not sure exactly about the efficacy and whether or not what they want to do. Jackson of the Ravens, I think he's had COVID twice now, right? And stuff like that. And who was it? I think Dak Prescott of the Cowboys won't tell anybody, what his vaccines. And then you have what is it? New York. They're going to require, I think, for certain indoor spaces that you show proof of vaccination. Now, I don't know about you, but this begins to sound a little bit like a show me your papers and then you can come in and eat, or you can come
unless you're an illegal crossing the border that's COVID positive. Oh, go into America, go forth and spread COVID to the inner lands. Honest to God, it is criminal what Mayorkas, Harris, and Biden are handling this border crisis. And I love Jen Psaki going, "Oh, we inherited this problem." No, you didn't. These guys are so freaking Obama-esque. They kept blaming. I mean, 8 years later, oh, we inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression. And now you have Joe Biden saying, we inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression. No, you can only inherit it once. Are you saying that Obama brought everything back from the brink when George W. Bush left, and then President Trump in 4 years, with all those jobs created, he took us back to the Depression days? I mean, unemployment was almost at 0% before. It was actually at statistical zero. I think it was around 3 or 4% before the COVID lockdowns. We shut down the largest economy.
It was obviously the lowest we've seen in our lifetimes, in effect, because of the fact that you have more jobs and people, that we were basically at full employment. And so, and today, there were economic numbers that were announced, jobs numbers, and they were good, and June's numbers were revised upward, but it doesn't provide a lot of cover for Biden in terms of, hey, what am I going to do if I impose these mandates? They're trying to dance around. Oh yeah, we're not going to put any more. We're not going to shut things down and stuff like that. But when you start putting in these mandates, like this was mask mandate, this is that one step again back towards where we were when the economy was shut down, and we know how devastating that was for everybody. When we couldn't really do anything. So the administration's in it. They're in a difficult situation. It's like they got to watch out what they do. But yeah, on the board situation, look, we know Governor Abbott has said enough is enough with all of this stuff, and so he's trying to take some tough measures. And you have the Attorney General do that. We're gonna sue you, right?
Yep. And here is the whole thing. One, the Biden administration is trampling on states' rights. They are they're basically now, I think the next step we're going to see is federals. They're going to basically use the heavy hand of the federal government to withhold federal funding for states that don't comply to their Gestapo tactics of forcing everyone in masks and making kids wear masks. I'm sorry, as the great Phil Gramm, the senator from Texas, would say, who cares more about your child? You or some politician in the state capital or Washington or county seat. and it's you, the parents. Let the parents decide if they want to mask their kids and send them to school, or if they don't want to mask them and send them to school. It is the parents' choice. It is not Big Brother or government's choice to do so.
Dwight, you bring up the schools, and I think one of you mentioned a little bit ago about the teachers union. I mean, even up here in Carroll County, beautiful conservative Carroll County, we've got a teachers union who, I mean, they are just completely out of their minds, crazy. I mean, the antics they pull. I have a good relationship with our school board members, and the messages, the texts, the emails that they get from the teachers union and their minions, it's just terrible. I mean, they just, the things that they say, and then they, of course, they take screenshots and only give you the piece that shows the board of ed member looking terrible, and it all goes back to exactly what you're saying. It's that they are just, I mean, such fear mongers, and don't want to go back into the school. And even, I mean, thankfully our school board members, I mean, have put their foot down, and they got kids back in school before any other, I mean, as earlier than any other county in the state. And the teachers union, quite frankly, they hate it and they're mad. And now, especially with all this Delta variant going on, they are finding this as an opportunity to really dig their heels in.
Yep, and this kind of reminds me of, if you guys remember Al Gore when he was campaigning for John F. Kerry in 2004, he went around the country accusing how George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Karl Rove, they played on your fears. And that is exactly what the Biden administration is doing. They are, Rush Limbaugh once mentioned, he goes, how the left they basically, people that hate something a lot, they turn into that. They turned into Nixon back when they decided to dummy up documents in 2004. They hated George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, and they basically are now they're now playing on everyone's fear on COVID. They are basically using fear to justify their tyrannical rule. And that is, I mean, the hypocrisy, has no limits with these guys. You had, not to shift gears, but you had just the other day, Cori Bush on television said, "Well, I'm more important than you are." Basically, I'm paraphrasing her. I need the security. We need to but we need to defund the police for all you little people out there. You got, and honestly, Cori Bush is probably of the mindset that those who are not elitists like herself are just worthless eaters. And if they die, it's no great loss to civilization, according to Cori Bush's thinking. And there's a lot of Democrats who share that same thinking that, well, I'm more important than all these little. It's kind of let them eat cake moment for the Democrat Party. And I hope every Republican takes that clip and runs that when they run for office, because, I mean, they can lie enough times by saying, Joe Biden never said defund the police, which is a lie. He has. There's footage of him saying that several times. He's also said reallocate funds when he found out that defund the police is not polling well. So let's reallocate funds. Is redistribution is what he was talking about. But it's all the same thing. It's not.
Didn't you love how if defund the police sounded a little too harsh, so they kind of tried to put in a different term, like reimagining police, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound as harsh as defund the police. It's like, we still know what you're trying to hear.
Yeah, their idea
Dwight, that's exactly what I was thinking. As the other day, I was reading the paper about how the Congress was giving out medals and this and that and stuff for the Capitol Police and this and that. And I have a different opinion, and I think a lot of Republicans, well, maybe some Republicans, on what went down at the Capitol. I do think it was horrible. I don't think it was a good moment for Republicans or the president.
You'll have no arguments
But-
for me here.
hold on,
On
Dwight,
that.
hold on.
Either.
However, I can't. I mean, it hurts my stomach watching the Democrats down there just absolutely, tripping over themselves. We love the police, and the Republicans, our Republican congressmen here, how terrible they are. They have no respect for our law enforcement who lost their lives. So for the last year, all they've been doing is ringing the defund the police bell. But and it's like it's exactly what you're saying about let them eat cake. So they don't want police for the rest of us. Our cities and our towns, we should downsize our police, or in some cases just totally get rid of the police. But in DC at the Capitol, we need them. They're the backbone of this. It's absolutely sickening that they just that they are just in love with the police down there, but everywhere else, get rid of them.
It's funny.
I was going to say, I agree with you, Chris, on the. I think he said too that, the thing about it on the January 6th. I mean, it wasn't a good look for the party. I mean, this is, and Trump should, he should just let the Democrats, do whatever they want to do with it because they control the levers of power right now. But I think it makes, they want to put on a sideshow. I think that's something the Republicans can use against them. Comes in there, and I don't think that helps the cause at this point. But when you talk about this relationship that the Democrats have with the police on Capitol Hill versus what I think we all support the police, we all back the blue. Yeah. But those hearings were atrocious. I mean, those police officers, as much as I admire them for the work that they do, to me, I thought that they were just being pawns for the Democrats to get a message across, right?
And you heard,
you're right.
Yeah, and you heard George Stephanopoulos that morning. And it's going to be emotional. So I mean, they already knew what they were. I mean, these folks, I'm willing to bet they were interviewed privately by these members of Congress. The one that gave them the saddest tearjerker story, or the one that they brought up in front of the cameras for them, frankly. And it's funny.
They had to be vetted beforehand. They didn't go up there just raw. No way.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Muriel Bowser, I don't know if many people know this, but her brother-in-law is John Bowser from Sha Na Na fame. But Muriel Bowser wants to actually fund the police. And the great DC City Council, in their infinite wisdom, who decided to create the biggest traffic nightmare by shutting down 16th Street, by the way. Let's see how this all works out for them when cars start moving at a normal pace. But the council unanimously voted against funding the police. What is happening in Washington, D.C. right now? We're having 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds getting shot playing on the playground. I mean, we haven't seen these things since Marion Barry, mayor for life, was mayor in Washington. That is how bad the city has become. We've gone back to the future of the days of Marion Barry. It's almost like, has Marion Barry's ghost possessed some of the folks on the... I mean, Muriel Bowser, let me say, not defending her, but Muriel Bowser also was part of the defund the police movement last summer. She wanted, how'd that work out for you, Muriel? You wanted to defund the police. How's it working out for you now? You've become the murder capital again. Thank you, Muriel Bowser. You have taken us back to the future, to the days of Marion Barry. I mean, folks like Chris probably does not remember when Marion Barry was mayor of DC, when it was the murder capital of the country, where they had over 600 murders a year, something like that.
When I hear his name, I just think of his famous line.
It's funny you should mention that. PBS does this. WIDA does this document Washington in each decade. They had Washington in the 70s, and they really love, because it's put on by the liberal media guys. It's like folks like from NBC4, and anyways, they're the ones that do it. They take turns doing each decade, but they talk about Marion Barry, how he's such a great guy, and they talk about how basically kind of almost go, Sharon Pratt Kelly had no idea what she was doing. She was the mayor that was mayor for 4 years, which basically set the stage for the return of Marion Barry. And one of the best things that even Anthony Williams would say that happened in DC was the control board that was put on basically to counter Marion Barry's reckless spending. It was that is kind of where DC started shifting. It's a shame we can't do that to Baltimore City. Put a control board that runs the city and has to okay everything they do. It might change things for the city for the better. But what I'm saying here is Muriel Bowser, what's that? I believe Julius Becton.
So that would probably be racist in today's.
Yeah, but Julius Becton was an African-American. General Becton, he was an African-American fellow who was running the control board. I don't know how he could have been racist.
I mean, it doesn't. The liberal Democrats, particularly far left Democrats, is like, even if it's someone who's black on something, if they think that they're not voting with the rest of the crowd or whatever, they become the Uncle Tom sellouts and everything like that, and they're racist.
Well, I tell you, the same documentary mentioned how Anthony Brown and Adrian Fenty gentrified the city and forced the black people out of the city, and I think people left the city for the suburbs.
Anthony Williams.
Yeah, Anthony Williams and Adrian Fenty. They were said, well, it was kind of racist because they kind of forced out black people out of the city where they had homes for years and years. I think what forced them out was getting a lot of money for their house in DC, and they could buy a nicer place in Montgomery County, Fairfax County, Alexandria, Arlington, Prince George's County, or go even further out like Charles County where they get a nice estate. Like our friend, or Anne Arundel County, where like our friend Dr. Trott. Right now he's been absent on the show because he's been kicking it back at his palatial estate in Anne Arundel County. With champagne dreams and caviar wishes, or is it caviar dreams and champagne wishes? I think it works either way.
Yeah. Let's look up that Robin Leach quote, please.
I will look that up. Somebody will look up. One of our viewers.
Hey,
we got
speaking of the lifestyles of the rich and famous, this is how I know COVID is real, and it's not just made up. Poor former President Barack Obama had to downsize his 60th birthday celebration because of the Delta variant. That's how I know COVID's real, because he had to downsize his birthday party. I mean,
so it's going to have 300 people there instead of 600 now?
Yeah. Now he went from 1,700 to only 200 guests. So poor
only
Barack.
200. Wow.
Poor Barack.
But they're still trying to fundraise off that thing. Wasn't there some email that has been sent out like, please give to the Obama presidential library?
Yeah. Where is he going to build it? I notice he doesn't spend a lot of time in Chicago. I don't know why.
He's got a nice big home in DC, right? And he's got that huge compound up in Martha's Vineyard area.
Whatever happened when presidents went home? Whatever happened to the days when President Bush 43 didn't stick around, 41 didn't stick around. President Reagan went back to California. We had even Jimmy Carter went back to Plains, Georgia. And I've driven through Plains, Georgia. And let me tell you, nobody wants to be in Plains, Georgia. And Jerry Ford went back to Michigan. President Nixon thought about moving to New York, but he also went back to California. And here's the thing. Obama still, what's he doing still? Even the Clintons didn't stick around Washington as much as the Obamas.
Hillary tried to stay. They told her she had to go.
I guess she wanted to have a DC president. That didn't work out too well for her.
No. I guess she didn't want to do impromptu nature walks in Rock Creek Park.
You're talking about these, about those things about Anthony Williams and Fenty and whatnot. No one has to really move now, though, right? I mean, thanks to the Biden administration and the CDC, we now have an extended eviction moratorium. And we have the extension loan deferment. I mean, it's like, this is absolutely crazy. I mean, the eviction moratorium is just getting to be out of hand because Biden went ahead and basically had the CDC, even though the Supreme Court said, you know, without legislation, this is not really legal. And so we've got this extension till October 3rd that is probably not legal at this point.
And here's something else. Speaking as a landlord, I've got some of the best tenants. They have, I've had to evict people in the past, and let me tell you, evicting somebody is not an easy task, especially in Maryland, especially in Montgomery County, which is a tenants' rights county. Where you got to give them options. You can't evict them in the winter months. You can't turn off their water. You can't do stuff like that. So I'm still responsible for the mortgage, the property taxes, all that, while Joe Deadbeat sits there and doesn't pay his rent. Or even worse, like there was a case in New York where a guy sublet his apartment. He went to his country home in Westchester, sublet his apartment, collects the rent on the sublet, but doesn't pay his rent to the landlord. So that is what some of these people are gaming the system. And something? It is about time we start thinking about the landlords, quite frankly. Everyone talks about tenants' rights. Landlords have rights too. We're the property owners. We take the biggest risk. Frankly, I'm willing to bet after this all, if it ever settles down, and if landlords start tripling the rent for rentals, you're going to see Congress come in and say, nope, you can't do that. Why not? It's my house. If I want to charge $10,000 a month for my house, if nobody wants to buy it, let's let the free market decide. If nobody wants to pay me 10 grand a month for renting my 4-bedroom home, then so be it. I'll have to lower it to 9,000 or 8,000 or 5,000 to whatever, until somebody decides, okay, I'll pay that. What is so wrong with letting the markets decide what the price of rent is? Frankly, these people all whine too much about paying too much in rent, And if I hate to say it, a lot of these people that are renting make good money, but they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're making 6 figures. Like I listen to Dave Ramsey every now and then. It's always funny when I hear somebody say, "Oh, I make $250,000 a year. Oh, we owe $100,000 on this card, and we owe this much on." It's like, how the hell can you be that much in debt when you're making $250 a year? I know the tax man takes a big chunk of that, but still, how are you over $100,000 in debt at that point?
Yeah, well,
and that's excluding
I've seen individuals that make decent salaries that have gotten way in over their head on credit card. But on the landlord, look, I am all for the landlord. That most landlords are getting really screwed by this because the liberal media wants to paint the picture that landlords are these kind of big evil corporation types. So they're the rich and famous. But there are a lot of mom and pop landlords, a lot of small people who are trying to make extra income and stuff like that, and they're really getting screwed. So I think it's called the National Apartment Association. So they sued the government for $26 million because of what they claim for losses,
rightfully so,
because of this moratorium.
Where is my slush fund where I can get money to pay my mortgage? I have to go into my savings. Because the tenants aren't paying, I got to go into my savings. I got to do this.
I was just reading a story about a woman. She had a boyfriend. I mean, she broke up with this boyfriend, and when she did, that made her homeless because she actually apartment that she was renting out, and she could move there, except because of the eviction moratorium and everything. She can't get the tenant to move out. So she moved into her own property because there's a tenant in there that hasn't been paying their rent. Out.
Yeah. And Don, I can't, if hypothetically, if I've got a tenant that's not paying rent, and I could say, I'm going to sell the house, I'll give them 90 days. I can't even sell right now because of the moratorium. You cannot sell a home due to this moratorium because the tenant house, he's unemployed. McDonald's is paying decent money, as is. And I think, is it McDonald's or Walmart that's now starting to say, we'll pay your college tuition for you?
Walmart and Target, both of them did that, actually.
There you go. It's like, get a job at Target. I mean, how you're making $15 an hour. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but they'll pay for your college, and you can retool your skill set, and you can be, you have the earning potential. I mean, it's funny when I see these people that are, with in the professional homeless. I know there's real homeless, but there's the professional homeless people that stand at the most lucrative intersections, and with a sign saying, "I haven't eaten in days," or "I've got a sick child at home," or "I've got a sick parent. I've got no money. I've lost my job, pay me. It's like, and those people are professionals, I think, just like, the old Saturday Night Live skit with Chris Rock. And I'm trying to think of the guy that played the doctor, where he said, excuse me, do not bother me and tell me how to conduct business in my place of business. I don't come to your place of business and tell you how to conduct brain surgery, as he put it. And it was a hilarious skit, but I'm sorry, these are professional homeless folks, and a lot of these people are not homeless. They have nice homes. They drive a nice car and they get out and they make cash income. They're making over 250. Washington Post had an article a few years ago where there's this one guy who makes over $250,000 and has a winter home in Florida. So the winter months he goes to Florida where it's nice and warm. And then he comes up here in the summer months so he can make some extra money, pay for that winter home.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait,
I don't think that we should.
Go ahead, Don.
Go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead, Chris.
I'm not a landlord, but I've got some close friends who are, and I'm always talking to him about the different about the trouble he's been having in the last year and a half with all these rules that have been put in place. And yes, the government, they look upon landlords as though they should be, it's like some kind of public service that they own these properties and try to rent them out. And that they're just rolling in cash. But Dwight, I mean, this as a landlord, I mean, yes, eventually the goal is to pay off, but most landlords are paying a mortgage on this building.
Yeah, the rent pays for the mortgage.
Yeah, they got to pay the mortgage at the end of the day, but now they're not getting any rent. And I've seen this with my friend and his properties. I mean, people just up and vanish in the middle of the night sometimes, and they leave all their crap. And then what do you got to do? You got to pay. You got to clear the room out. My friends had people overdose and die in some of his rentals. I mean, you don't just go in there with a sponge and a bucket. I mean,
you got to send a hazmat team in there.
Yeah, you got to professionally pay for someone to come in and clean it. I mean, as a landlord, you're taking on major risks, and all the liability is on you. And the government just seems to think that you're providing public housing. There is public housing, but it's not supposed to be what you're doing.
Yep, and Service Pro is not cheap. I've had to use them once. They're not cheap. And I had a friend in Baltimore County who rents property. And he was, I know you mentioned they leave their crap, but he was telling how this guy, when he left in the middle of the night, he took the refrigerator, he took the range, he took the washing machines, he basically took all the parts out of the AC unit. He pulled the compressor out and took the compressor off. And they took all the knobs off the kitchen cabinets. Like, what are you going to do with this stuff? I don't even know if there's a big market for scrap metal. I mean,
some of that is just outright vandalism. I mean, if you know that you're going to be evicted or something like that you've has run out. I mean, I had a friend of mine who had multiple properties down on the Eastern Shore in Crisfield, and I spent part of a summer when I'd go on visit on the part of the deal was to stay in the houses that we had. I'd go out with his kids, some of my friends, and then we'd spend part of a day working on a house and checking out talking about toilets that were ripped from out and stuff like that. It's just like, it was pretty shocking to see the condition of some of these places, particularly because I think they qualified as section landlords. So it's like they had some pretty bad tenants in there. And when those tenants knew it was time to leave, they trashed the place, which meant that in there and basically redo the entire place and get it in ship shape for the next tenant. And so there was a high risk of what's going on and expenses. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I remember the Clinton White House staff did the same thing to the White House when they had to leave when George W. Bush was coming in. They
talking about was that the one with all the letters on the keyboard?
Yep, they took off the W's and a little thing somebody needs to tell. You can take a pencil and you can push down, you'll still get the W. That's how stupid those Clinton people were. But again, back to like Don, like that home we in your neighborhood that I went to go look at. They broke the key, so
the one that you looked
show
at?
the house.
Yeah.
They broke a key in the lock, so nobody could go look at the house. And I mean, I've seen.
At least they finally fixed that up, and there's somebody bought that house a couple of years ago, whatever it's been. How many?
That was a nice deal. Yeah, they got a good deal.
Yeah.
But
considering
yeah,
how tight housing is now.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's funny. I've never seen this happen before. I saw a 2-bedroom house for sale on Zillow for $379, and then went back to because I was going to share that with Jeff, Dr. Jeff was looking for, I think, properties, and I go, Jeff, here's a great one for 3 something, and then when we'll go back to look, it's like $430 now. It's like they raised the price, opposed to cutting the price, they raised the price, and the house sold. I mean, houses are selling for. I mean, I sold a place on St. Andrews for about $800, close to $800,000. I mean, that is ridiculous. That's a lot of money for a house that I paid $185 for. But it's and it's the market. The market drives the numbers. And frankly, good for folks that are in the position that has extra real estate to sell. And if you're able to sell it, you can make a pretty penny right now. And just hold on to the money until the point when, because what goes up has to go down. So when the prices start to drop, you can start buying those houses again for cheap. And I know that sounds like an evil landlord talking, right, Chris? Is that something Scrooge McDuck would do?
Yes.
Hey, so we're
Sell
getting
high
down
and buy low.
Yeah, I think at least we got to spend a couple about Governor Cuomo here in your favorite states.
Yes, we do.
New York and
Governor
Cuomo. What a great governor he was, right? Like you may actually see.
Well, I know we had George Pataki. Yeah,
it's been a while. The Cuomo dynasty may be coming to an end here.
Well, maybe Chris Cuomo will decide to run.
But hey, the whole investigation was partisan, like you said, and they had an.
Those evil Republicans that control the state assembly in New York, it's crazy. Those evil. Oh wait, no, the Democrats control both houses. That's why they passed that crazy abortion law in the state of New York. It is so refreshing to see Cuomo get his comeuppance. This is a guy who had COVID and was riding around on a bicycle outside, or he was infected. What was this? Was it he? Don, do you remember? Was he infected and he was out and about in the Hamptons, cruising around on his bike or something like that? But he was. I mean, he himself is responsible for countless deaths in the state of New York by keeping old people in nursing homes. And the untold number, and these are just the brave souls that came out and said what he did. What about the dozens of women who did not feel comfortable coming out and taking on the sitting governor? I'm going to bet for every woman that came out, there's probably another 3 that didn't come out to share their story about.
I mean, you kind of wonder this whole thing. I mean, Cuomo asked for this investigation. There is no way in my mind that he asked for this investigation thinking that this would happen. He had a Democrat attorney general, investigation. Well, and then she comes out and it's like, okay, we think he's guilty of sexual harassment and may have violated some laws. Oops. He's like, is Letitia James going to be gunning for his job? Is that part of her process too? A little bit of politics for her, but this has been damning for Cuomo. He's got Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, the governors in the surrounding states, Kirsten Gillibrand, Hillary Clinton. You about name it. There's probably hardly any Democrat out there that hasn't excoriated Cuomo and said you got to leave. In his defense. He's like, I didn't really do anything out of the ordinary. I mean, I think he even released kind of a montage or a little thing where he showed pictures of like Obama and Biden hugging and kissing other people. Like, I don't think Joe Biden really wants to have pictures out of him again in public where he does his creepy thing. I don't think Joe Biden's too thrilled about that. But his justification is that because maybe Joe Biden and Barack Obama may have hugged or kissed somebody in public, that he's justified in doing this when these women didn't want any contact? Come on.
Well, what do you call it? Governor Cuomo's defense is, hey, I'm a guy. That's his defense. Boys will be boys. That is his defense, you know.
I'm an Italian. This is what we do.
Exactly. And
didn't he say I did the exact? This is what my father and my mother did. I think he said something like that. I mean, I don't think his mom.
His explanations have been horrible.
Yeah. And here's the thing. What is going? Because all these guys, I know they all hang out in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. What are they drinking? Elliot Spitzer, David Patterson, now Cuomo. What are these? What's in the water there that's happening? You notice George Pataki, who didn't spend time in the Upper East Side bars and lounges, you know, he had no issues like these. But Spitzer, this is a pattern for Democrats, I think, that they are basically
this
very, you know, and
Republicans' best chance to retake the governor's mansion. I mean, this open, even with the registration not in their favor. This is a thing. And, you know, Democrats, I mean, Biden and Schumer, Pelosi, Gillibrand, Clinton, you know, they're all caught in that situation of, like, if they don't encourage him to resign and, you know, and criticize him for this, then they really look like hypocrites because of all their talk about the Me Too movement, right? So, you know, they had to take this position, even if they didn't really think, you know, wholeheartedly down in their heart that this is what they wanted to do. But boy, you know, and then you have Chris Cuomo apparently advising his brother, you know, while he's still working for CNN, and, you know, CNN's best response is that, well, we've kind of advised him he might want to take a few days off.
Yeah, you know, and this is
what a great news media organization CNN is.
Yeah. By the way, let me remind everyone.
I haven't heard Bill Clinton say anything yet. Has he made a statement?
Yeah, have you seen that meme? He says, "Deny everything, keep denying." But no, this is America in crisis. You know, I think they need to change their title to Cuomo.
I will say, you know, one of the things that Accuracy and Media has been doing is that they have these mobile billboards in New York City that they run every once in a while, and now apparently they have a mobile billboard, and they tried to park the truck as long as they can out in front of the headquarters of the Emmys, and to encourage them to Cuomo's Emmy for his, you know, the special Emmy that he got for his COVID press conferences.
Yeah, and I think it's funny, you know, that they are. I mean, our friend Matthew Foldy got Andy Cuomo kicked off of Act Blue, which is no small feat. Right there. I mean, I think this may have been the first time they kicked off a Democrat. I mean, they only have Democrat, but they usually kind of kind of backpedal and don't do anything. But Andy Cuomo is no longer able to raise money off of Act Blue, but he is still raising money.
And that's a big deal. That's a big deal because Act Blue has raised a ton of money for Democrats.
Yep. And I think that's probably one of the highlights. And you know something, I hope this is just the beginning of a trend of taking out other really bad senators and members of Congress like Keith Ellison, you know, what do you call Keith Ellison? I believe he was a wife beater. I think he was accused of, you know. And,
but now he's Attorney General in Minnesota, so
yeah. You know, my point is this, you know, it's that, you know, it's Cuomo, you know, he should resign today. I mean, this is the same guy that basically went after President Trump every single day when he was president, accused him of all sorts of malfeasance, and now he has the audacity to stick around and fight this whole thing. By the way, we just
well, you know, he's probably looking at Governor Virginia, who survived the blackface thing, but this is far more serious than that. But I think we know that in general in political history for us in the last 40 years or thereabouts is that if it's a Republican that commits a sin like that, they're going to be history pretty fast. If it's a Democrat, they manage to survive, whether or not it's a Jerry Studs, it's a Charles Diggs, it's a Ralph Northam, whatever. These guys survive. Democrats don't seem they lack a conscience enough to vote a lot of these people out. But boy, if it's a Republican, after the media pounds on them, either they resign or they get voted out very quickly.
Yep. And by the way,
if it's a Republican, break up the pitchforks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
hey, Chris,
absolutely.
this is Bill Clinton advising. We just found this picture. That's him giving him advice.
Yeah, we just birds of a feather, right?
Make a meme.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like kiss her here.
And Phil can say at least I got some props for having a college kid. I think he just had a bunch. But Bill Clinton advising Andrew Cuomo on how to deal with this. And here's the thing: when isn't Reverend Al going to get involved in this? I mean, Reverend Al likes to get into all of these sort of things. When it's a Republican, where is Reverend Al? Where is Al Sharpton these days?
Well, and these are that's another thing about when Democrats commit these types of sins is that the groups, the liberal groups, are usually pretty silent. They should be front and center, whether or not it's a pro-choice organization, some pro-woman's organization, feminist organization, whether or not it's like the ACLU, any of these things, depending upon the situation, more often than not, they don't comment on this, these types of situations, because they don't want to harm the Democrats.
Yeah, where's this guy? This guy likes to.
Cuomo's in an untenable position when you have the state legislature, on the verge of impeaching him. They'll consider impeachment proceeding if he doesn't resign. That's going to be a big problem. I mean, they are very close to having enough votes to probably do this.
And it's like, where's Al Sharpton? Where is Jesse Jackson? If you recall, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, they were all brutal to Justice Kavanaugh, as well as Clarence Thomas back in the days. Where is this guy, Al Sharpton? That's Al right here.
Is that Al Sharpton in the white?
Yes, that is Al Sharpton.
That's such a flattering picture of Al. He doesn't look like that anymore. He lost
that is a
ton of weight since then.
That is true.
I want that exact
jumpsuit.
All right, we've gone overtime, Dwight. We probably ought to wrap this up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as tight.
But let's give props. He did lose a lot of weight. But I think he had surgery done. He didn't do what I did, run miles and miles a day. But that is before.
I know when I saw how skinny he was, I thought, okay, he actually, first time I saw him, I thought, man, he looks really gaunt.
Yeah,
a lot of times when you lose a lot of weight, you look so much older. I mean, he is getting older, but I think it just ages you a lot too.
Yeah, and he had the stomach stapling, which basically, I've heard people say that does cut your lifespan in half.
Look,
I don't know.
And if he's been able to keep it off, if he got like a bariatric surgery or stomach, whatever, more power to him if he's been able to keep that up.
But my view is,
I have several friends of mine that have gone. They didn't watch their intake, and they started to balloon right back up.
Mm-hmm. I think if everybody were to run 2 miles a day, I'm not even saying do what I do, just 6. By the way, yesterday I was feeling bad after a 6-mile run. Actually, Wednesday when I did 6 miles, it was a short run for my standards, but I was feeling horrible. And I had to eat some jelly beans to feel better, actually, because I lost that much salts and electrolytes and so. But anyways, I think we're at
30,000 times this week, so I feel all right.
Yeah, I know. I think we're at final thoughts.
Yep.
And we've got, I just got a nice little message from Corinne Frank. That's very nice. A great suggestion for the spring convention 2025. But anyways, we're at final thoughts. We've had a nice, interesting week in Maryland. A lot of the Democrats behaving crazy. We had a full moon last week, didn't we, Don? Is that why you think everyone's? I think we did. Or there's a full moon somewhere. Actually, no, there's not. But anyways, we're at final thoughts. My favorite segment of the show. Chris, final thoughts. You can have more than one thought.
I can have more than one thought. All right. I guess as third vice chair of the state party, I'll do a plug for our red, white, and blue dinner coming up in September.
How much are those tickets? How much are those ticket costs?
$175.
Have people gone insane? That is such a low price. I mean, that is insane. Has everybody gone crazy in Annapolis? And they're going to see Mike Pompeo, right?
Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, serves in a couple different roles, I think, in the administration, but served the entire time during Trump's 4 years. But yeah, he's coming there. Tickets. I was on a call earlier today. Tickets are being sold pretty quickly. It's gonna be a good event.
On cable number 3. Yeah.
we weren't able to have a dinner
last year.
We weren't able to have a dinner last year, but we're having one this year, and it's going to be a good event. And then I guess my other final thought is and Friday, September 24th is the event for anybody listening. And my other final thought is that Governor Hogan's book while I was on vacation last week. Pretty good read. I didn't get a mention in the book though, so a little upset. But there's some people there's some people far more important than I am, and they didn't get mentions either, so I didn't feel so bad. But no, it was a good read, and I look forward to seeing him at a future event and chatting him up about his book.
Great, Don. Final thoughts?
Yeah. All right. So,
are you going to KV?
Since you mentioned that too, I mean, I don't remember the date. There's a KV compound coming up. Celebrate, I think, the 10th anniversary of Hogan to change Maryland.
That's tomorrow, yeah.
Yep.
Is that tomorrow?
Are you going to that?
Okay.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah. Is that close to your house? You live all the way out there in the frontiers?
Okay.
Frontiers?
So that 30 seconds from the Pennsylvania line.
Yeah.
Wow. You never really.
Yeah, I remember driving out there. I mean, Hogan had an event out there a few years ago. I remember driving out there that day. Is that California? I mean, they've announced caution, and stories are coming out just because there are 46 candidates on this recall ballot in California. But it's one of those deals where it's not like you go in and you're just voting candidate. It's like a two-part deal. You have to say, do you want to, do you basically want to get, the governor out of the office, and then so which one of these 46 people you vote for? Majority of the people say that the second question really won't make a difference. But apparently Larry Elder, the black conservative radio talk show host, is fairly well, but you never know with polls. But Gavin, I think Newsom's a little bit worried that he's even in this thing and is starting to try to pour money into this and try to save his job. But it's only for a year or about anyway, so you'd only hold it for a year. I'm not so sure about the wisdom of doing this one way or the other. I mean, time they had a recall election, Davis was a terrible governor, but they got Arnold Schwarzenegger's Republican, which I don't think was a great success.
No, and the sad thing about that election is we could have had
Republicans either. So I'm not so sure.
We could have Tom McClintock. Don, we could have Tom McClintock, but
Right, they could have had somebody, a conservative candidate, but
But
the
Sean
star power
Hannity,
of Schwarzenegger
yeah.
on the
Well,
day.
not only Schwarzenegger, also you had people like Sean Hannity. They all decided to get behind Schwarzenegger, and if they all gotten behind Tom McClintock or Bill Simon or Firestone or any of the conservatives that were running for governor in California, they would have won too. But no, they were all saw Star Trek by the governor Schwarzenegger, who married a Kennedy, that didn't support President Bush in 2000. They Maria Shriver, his ex-wife, and the problem is Republicans got all starstruck, but I hope we don't make the same mistake by everybody lining up behind Bruce Jenner this time. Let's try Larry Elder.
Yeah, well, yeah, he, she, whatever is not doing very well. So I think that's not even that's a non-factor.
But it would be a little funny if the first trans governor would be a Republican. That would just kill the Democrats a little bit on the inside, I think.
Yeah.
But
look, I know how that goes. The best man at my wedding. So what.
Wow.
But anyway, my other thought really was just on the Olympics. Okay, I mean, and you can last week, but we're about ready to wrap up the Olympics. And for whatever we could talk about it being somewhat woke, and there were definitely some issues there. There have been some protests, which I have just kind of cringed at from our people as well as some other athletes. U.S. women's national team, the soccer team, had a kind of a rough go. They did manage to come away with a bronze, but they kind of stumbled into the Olympics and they stumbled through the Olympics. They salvaged the bronze. I'm really more for Team US, the politics of all of this, but the committee's got to really get a better handle about how to handle this whole thing because it's such a distraction for them. And I think it can damage the brand of the Olympics going forward. We see some of the greatest athletes in the world in this competition being overshadowed by politics and those that are standing up. And it's great to see some of these athletes that we haven't really heard from before winning medals, and talking about how great America is. There was it the women's wrestler or something like that? She's like, America, how I can't tell how freaking good it is to live in America and stuff like that. Well, they're like, we need more of that. America country. We all know that. We need to be reminded of it. The kids need to be reminded of it instead of all this garbage they're being taught in schools and things like that. And not putting up, Rapinoe and others as their heroes. Find the other Olympic heroes here that are talking about the goodness of America, the greatness of America. And congratulations to all the other athletes that have been winning medals from all the different countries. It's wonderful to see all of these things. And we're also seeing a little bit of changing the guard, right? Katie Ledecky from didn't win all the races, her events that they thought she would. But that's part of
she related to one of the former Caps owners, John Ledecky. Is that his daughter?
She's his daughter. Yeah.
I thought so. Okay. That's great. A nice local kid, doing well.
Yeah, it is. It's great to see the local kids. And what was it?
I'm sure all of Baltimore was cheering when Michael Phelps, was winning medal after medal after medal after medal back in the day. Although, just talking about the Olympics, I was a little disappointed by their opening ceremonies. There was no real Japanese pop culture. We didn't see Godzilla. We didn't see the Power Rangers. We didn't see samurais and ninjas coming down from the rafters. That would have been awesome. It would have, and the seats were empty because Godzilla was on a raid. He was riding again as the other famous Godzilla movie went. That was my issue with the opening ceremony. It's very disappointing.
Well, I'm hoping by the Winter Olympics and the next Summer Olympic Games, that we get back to a little more normal where the fans can be in the stands and we can see that. I think fans this time by not being able to be there.
And I don't like the staggered Olympics, having 2 years apart, summer, winter. So why can't we go back to the way? What was wrong with having them the same year. Every 4 years, the Winter and the Summer Olympics, same time.
I mean, we used to do that, right?
Yeah, I know. I think it's last maybe 3 years, 4 years, 4 Olympics, I should say, or 3 Olympics. We started.
Well, look, the 2000 it goes back at least 20 years. I mean, the 2002 Winter Olympics were in Salt Lake, so
Mitt Romney saved those.
Probably sometime. Probably I'd have to look back. Probably sometime in the 90s, maybe when they changed it.
Yeah, I personally don't like it.
I'm trying to keep track of that. I agree with you. I prefer them to be in the same year.
Yeah. So, any more final thoughts on
basketball? Maybe the champions. Maybe women's basketball will be champs too, right? So
there you go. Yeah, and they haven't gone too crazy. It's one of the things what really irritates me about these Olympians. They go there. They represent the United States, and they use this as a place to trash America. They take a knee, I remember when Karen Kerrigan took a knee from, I can't think of her name, but she took a lead pipe and bashed her knee and whatever. But
Tanya Harding.
Tanya Harding, and sometimes I think, maybe we should send Tanya around. When these people take a knee, just take that lead pipe, Tanya, run over there. And
it became a movie in the whole 9 yards, right, or something.
Was that a movie also?
Yeah. I think they did a movie. I think she might even done a little reality show or something like that. I thought
she was on Dancing with the Stars too.
I think you're right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, Dancing with the Stars. Anybody from the B list on down can go to that.
That means those doctors. I mean, Dr. Chris could be on Dancing with the Stars as a celebrity.
We just gotta up our profile. That's all, a little bit, and we'll get to the level.
We're sea level right now. We're sea level.
That would be
I never thought about what level we were at. Thanks. At least I know where we're starting from.
I think we're. Yeah.
Oh,
and my final thought. Yeah, he'll come back. I think he had connection issues. He'll be back. But my final thoughts are the Great Maryland State Fair starts August 26th and runs through September 6th. We need to have the Maryland Republican Party has a booth, right, Chris, at the Great Maryland State Fair in lovely Timon, Maryland, where the phone exchange is 666. Did you know that, Chris? The phone exchange for Timonium is 666. Yeah. I remember I once had, back when Congressman Harris was in the Senate, I had to give him a call at his house, and I'm like, wow, Congressman Harris lives in hell. And it was 666. But anyway, the state party does a lovely booth. Come on out and volunteer at the state party booth. You can meet fellow Republicans from all over the state. You don't want to go to a county fair where you got to put a mask on because of idiocies of a lunatic county executive. The state fair, I believe you won't have to wear a mask there, and it's a lot of fun. If you guys haven't ever been to a state fair, you should go. There was a great Simpsons episode where they went to a state fair and they came back with a racing horse. If you recall, I don't know if anybody remembers that. I don't know. But volunteer, go to contact Jason Trott if you want to volunteer, or your local central committee, or they can reach out to you, Chris, right, if they want to volunteer.
Yes. At
the state fair. And my other final thought is I've just turned 49, but I'm still being told I can't say phrases like many moons ago. I guess I have to wait for the big 5-0 to be able to do that. And where I got to spend the 5-0 in Hawaii. But that's a show before your time, Chris. The good one, not the. Do they have like the new Hawaii 5-0 is? Do they have the same villains from the original series? I don't know. Don, have you watched the new one, or Chris?
I watched almost every episode of the new one.
Oh, really? Do they have the same villains? Did they have Will Fat in there? You know, the villain, Jack Lord's nemesis.
Or somebody similar to that. I mean, they tried. They had some of those, but not a whole lot of those. So Dwight, I just
It would
want
have been nice.
the 666 area code intrigued me, and I looked it up on the internet here, and what it says
It's not an area
about
code.
that is that it said up until 2007, the town of Reeves, Louisiana, had the area code 66.
No,
So it
this is the
existed in
exchange,
2000.
It's not the area code. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this is like you know how like Bethesda's
So-
530 or 654. 666 that's the number that's in Timonium, Cockeysville. It's more Timonium, and that's it's not the area code. It's just the first three numbers of your phone number. It's like those television phone numbers. Everything is 555. You know, but it's 666. So yeah. But yeah, that's
here's one. You could have bought the cell phone number 666-6666. They didn't know the area code for $2.7 million in 2018.
Why would somebody want that?
Who knows?
Yeah,
that's one of so many strange things that happen.
I know. It's like somebody. What do you call it? I remember when you could actually get a 3-letter domain, and I could have gotten. Remember we tried to get AIA, but the other AIA already had that. But then it's.
I think the architects had that or something.
Yeah, they still have it. Although I think now they're actually somebody was telling me they're trying to get people to go to just architects.org opposed to AIA. But it's still AIA. That's where you go for the membership and all that. But I know that was a talk they had ways back. But it's been an exciting week. We've got, let's see if next week they'll end the mask mandate in Montgomery County. I don't think they will, because Emperor Mark Marky Mark Elric is all about control, and this is how he control the people in Montgomery County. You know, people are just so like. Would sheep be a bad word? Calling typical Montgomery County residents being sheeps, where they do whatever they're told. They're sheeple. I don't know, but that's my final thought. You know, don't be a sheeple. You know, be an individual. Thank you, everyone. And that is Dr. Politics and Political Architect Show for another week. And we'll be back next week. And as September rolls around, I think we'll have more and more doctors joining us. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be clear.